Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. We're back in the pub here to answer your burning questions. It's me, it's Doogie, it's Pato. But before we get into this episode is brought to you by our friends at Budweiser, the official beer partner of the Premier League, ahead of the latest monthly episode of Kings of the Premier League on Sky Sports. Make sure you check that out. Hosted by Smithy, including influencers, ex-footballers and celebrity football fans. But let's get into the first question. It was sent in by Niamla Nico, I think. Which big club will be the first to sack their manager? Pato, we're coming straight to you because Doogie's just run it in the rain. It needs at least 5 minutes to cool off.
Yeah, it's going to take 5-10 minutes. Seriously sweaty.
Secondarily, Unai. Is he on your chopping block?
I don't think we will sack him.
Do you want him sacked?
Yes.
Let's pivot the question.
Obviously, yes. Like, we should be the first to sack our manager, 100%.
Oh.
He's terrible, and we are terrible.
But you're still in and around the top six.
We're fifth.
United are 14th. Spurs are hovering about the same sort of area. So is he any worse right now than Ollie and Poch?
Yes. Because I look at Spurs and I think, okay, they're not really better than their results, but their squad is clearly better than this.
Yeah.
And I do back Pochettino not only to get the best out of that squad, but to actually get more out of it than I expect, provided they haven't quit on him.
Okay.
Solskjaer, I think the team have actually been quite a bit better than their position in the table. And I think generally speaking, they've played to their level. Like when you have Wan-Bissaka out and you have Ashley Young coming in, when you have Pogba out and you have Fred coming in, when you have Martial sitting on the bench or coming back from injury, like it's inevitable that you're going to see a drop-off. So to me, Man United being bad is more of a story of talent rather than a story of managerial underperformance. Okay. Arsenal, on the other hand, I think Arsenal's squad is pretty decent. Like, I think it's totally fine. And they are currently playing way, way below the level we know they can. Like, even in Wenger's final seasons, the defence was really bad, but the attack was always pretty good. Like, there were games where they looked toothless, but overall, across the season, they were a good attacking side. This year, we scored 13 goals so far, and Aubameyang's got 7 of them.
Yeah, I saw a stat going around on Twitter that in Wenger's last 47 games and Unai Emery's first 47 games, Wenger took more points, scored more goals, conceded less goals.
Yeah.
So where's the progression been?
And imagine
18 months in.
I mean, it's brought in for that defence as well. And there's just been no improvement whatsoever. And you say about Aubameyang, I think only Norwich have a more over-reliance on one player than Arsenal with Aubameyang. I think he scored 56% of their league goals.
Something like that.
And having said that, though, that is partially because Lacazette's, 6 weeks he's been out?
Yeah, he's been out a while. But also I think that Pepe will probably start scoring relatively soon. Like when you look at Pepe's numbers, I think it's like 3.5 shots a game, 2 key passes, over 4 dribbles. Like he's doing a lot for us in build-up play. But I think without a fullback getting past him on the wing and without an attacking midfielder to combine with inside, or even Lacazette, who'll probably do a better job with that than Aubameyang, he's often just given the ball and we seem to just hope he'll magic something up on his own.
So what's he doing wrong?
What? Pepe?
Unai.
Oh, Unai. Well, he's not playing... I don't think he's picking the best squad and he's not playing players in their correct positions. But also he seems to have this weird like 2-speed thing where he's like either we defend or we attack. So sometimes we're attacking, and normally when we're a couple of goals down, and then it looks like we can create. We created well in the second half against Spurs. We actually ended up creating reasonably well against Man United away from home, given how good a defensive side they are. When we were down against Aston Villa and down to 10 men, we attacked and we ended up coming back and winning 3-2. But all the rest of the time, he's far too conservative. You end up with a system where you often have, in a 3-man midfield, 3 central midfielders. Like there's no real variation in their technical ability.
Yeah.
Or if there is, you have Torreira, who's the more defensive, playing furthest forward, and you have Xhaka there, who doesn't really add anything that Guendouzi and Luiz can't. So I think that those things are a problem. It's just a matter of like varying the role. Like I can understand why you wouldn't play, say, Ozil, Aubameyang, Pepe all at the same time because they're not hugely defensively able. That is going to leave you with a lack of work rate across your front line. But on the other hand, you'll be able to score goals and you can still alter that lineup. Aubameyang should play a lot, but you can clearly adjust your front line to suit the purposes of the game. And it just feels like, at the moment, we have a midfield balance that makes absolutely no sense. And I think that's where a lot of the problems start. You don't have a real defensive presence in there without Torreira or even Ceballos, who could play that deeper role, but he doesn't. He gets played as a kind of 10. You don't really have defensive presence in the front line. So there's no defending there. But at the same time, those guys don't really have pure freedom to attack either. And our spacing is horrible in attack. Towards the end of the Sheffield game, it ended up with us playing basically a 4-2-4, but no one really knew where they should be at any given moment.
And it was so easy to defend against as well. It was all in front of them. Everyone was taking so many touches. It was so pedestrian.
And Pepe came off, who was probably the most dangerous guy.
Saka should have come off. Clearly, that was an error.
I mean, Pepe missed that big chance. But I thought Pepe otherwise was probably your best player by quite a distance.
Yeah.
And you lost all threat as soon as he went off. And it's really your away form that's more troubling. I think it's 4 wins in their last 17 away games.
And he was brought in to arrest that. That
Exactly.
was
the problem
what was level
post-Wenger.
at Wenger all the time. Get results at the Emirates. We play all right at the Emirates. Away from home, we're pathetic. The record's got worse under Emery than it was under Wenger.
Yeah, because we're still good at home. We've got 4 wins and a draw there this season. The draw was against Spurs.
Only got 1 win away.
And when he's played the youth in the cups, they've been really exciting.
Yeah,
Frankfurt,
Nottingham Forest.
Frankfurt and the Forest, obviously, yeah. And who was it? It was a Belgian side, Standard Liège.
Yeah.
You know, so those are quite encouraging performances. Clearly the talent's there, and he's been lucky as well in that Bukayo Saka, who fans have talked up for ages, looks like he's a Premier League ready player.
Yeah.
That's really fortunate. And yet, we're still not really creating much of anything. So to me, I just think you've got to start with the midfield. And that means that you should probably play Torreira most games at the base of it, then play either Guendouzi or Ceballos ahead of them, and then play an actual attacking midfielder in front of that. Now, that could be Willock, who came off at half-time the other day when we needed a goal. It could be Ozil. It could be...
Where's he?
No one knows, man. And I think it's so ridiculous to me that you wouldn't think, okay, we're going away to the most defensive side in the league, probably, or one of the two. There's a high probability that at some point in this game we will need to score a goal and we will have the majority of the ball. Who do you want in that situation?
Yeah,
Mesut
so easy.
Ozil. Mesut Ozil. It's ridiculous. And we got rid of Iwobi. You know, Iwobi was our second most incisive passer. Iwobi was a guy who always competed lots of passes into the box and into the final third at a really high rate. And we let him go in the summer. And now we've pushed Ozil out of the team. So really the idea seems to be either our midfielders push up and do that. And as good as Guendouzi and Ceballos are, they're not number 10s, they're midfielders. Their job is to pass the ball around the pitch, not to pass it into the box. And Pepe, who I think has done a reasonable job with it, he can't do it, or he can't drop really deep, beat a couple of guys, get forward and make the killer pass. It's just a ridiculous amount to ask of one player. So right now I look at it and I think with Solskjaer, I see a team that are not playing well, but have played about to their talent level. I look at Spurs and I see there are backroom problems, but I still overall believe that unless they have actually quit on Pochettino will be able to solve it.
Yeah.
I look at Arsenal and I see a squad which is actually being subtracted from by its manager. Does anyone think that this is how good the Arsenal squad is? I see people whining about it. I see people saying, "Oh, this is an oddly constructed squad," and in some ways it is. But it's clearly better than right now. I think expected goals has us as 8th best in attack and 12th best in defence. And StatsBomb's numbers are a little bit more complimentary. I think they have us as 6th best in attack. But fundamentally, we're a mid-table club. Does anyone look at that squad and think, yeah, that's mid-table talent?
And he's not doing what he was brought in to do, which was to take Arsenal to the next level, make them harder to beat, particularly away from home, shore them up defensively. I think they got 2 clean sheets in the last 24 away games, which is the same amount as Sheffield United, and they've played 4 Premier League games in that time. It is mental. The stats are damning. And while you might say Solskjaer was brought in to sort of oversee a rebuild of this Man United squad, get rid of some ageing players on big wages that didn't want to be there, change the whole dynamic of it, Emery is the one that's underachieving more than Solskjaer, to my opinion. Because Solskjaer also has the benefit of saying that the board aren't backing him to the right degree in some areas and making some weird decisions in selling Sanchez and Lukaku. Whereas Emery got pretty much everything he wanted except for a centre-back. He can't really complain with his lot.
And even then, got the short-term option and decided they were going to pay the big wages for David Luiz. I think that some of the signings Arsenal made this summer were quite short-term. David Luiz being one of them. Everybody knows he's going to age out, and you're probably going to sign the likes of Upamecano this coming summer. And Ceballos on loan. If that's not going to be a permanent deal, then that's another short-term signing, which means that the board have basically said to Unai, you have got to perform to a top level because we're giving you short-term backing. And to me, he's not performing to the level required. And Arsenal probably behind the scenes are going, okay, he's got, 10 months left, 8 months left on his contract? It's up in June, isn't it?
Well, there's some debate about this. I mean, Ornstein said the other day that actually it's a 3-year contract, but overwhelmingly reports said that it's either 2 years with an option for a third, or it's 3 years with a break after 2. But one way or another, I think it'd be quite easy to get rid of him in the summer.
It's certainly not going to break the bank, is it?
And also, you look around, and actually, like in terms of unemployed managers at the moment, the market's pretty strong. Like, I'm not saying you could get Allegri. I think Allegri probably has his sights set. Well, I don't think Arsenal would go for him because they have this idea that they want an attacking manager, and even though they didn't manage to do it with Emery.
So you're tweeting about Marcelino, though? Marcelino,
I think, is probably the best. He and Roger Schmidt are guys who are out of work at the moment and are good coaches. I think in an ideal world, what you do is get somebody to take you to the end of the season, and then you'd go really big for Marco Rose or Eric Ten Hag in the summer. I think those would be the ideal guys in terms of developing youth players, playing attacking football, having a little bit of pedigree, but not so much that you're going to be fighting, a Bayern or a Real Madrid for them. Though I think Marco Rose will probably end up at Bayern one day. I think that would be the sensible thing to do. So actually, I don't think they'll sack Emery unless it's really, really bad, and say we're out of the Europa League, or we're, miles adrift in the Prem by like March. And in that case, then they'll just give it to Ljungberg till the end of the season. But by then it will be too late. I mean, the good thing is you've already got Pepe, you've got these guys signed up, so your squad is going to get better, and Saliba's going to come in the summer, and there are positives. But it just feels like if you were to get rid of Emery now and convince a Marcelino or a Schmidt to come in for the rest of the season, and people say they wouldn't, but they're unemployed, and Arsenal pay managers good money.
Yeah, good structure, good squad.
Yeah, and you say, you know what, like, we're not going to guarantee you anything, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Then I think Marcelino has a phenomenal track record of sorting out defences, and his Valencia side were really good in attack last season. And I think there's a real gap to get into that fourth spot. Right now, it looks like it's going to be Chelsea third, but fourth is up for grabs. And you wait a month or two, and suddenly it's not. Another couple of months of these results, and you think that position is gone.
Okay, so we talked about him a little bit there. We have to talk about Poch. Is Poch sackable?
I don't think he's sackable. No, I think he deserves so much respect for what he's done at Spurs. Record finishes. I think he was finished 4 times in the top 4 in the previous 25 years of him taking over. It's something like 4 and 6 since he has. Remarkable. Got them to a Champions League final. But it feels like with this Man City and Liverpool side, they're never going to win a title over the next few years. Realistically, I think they're quite far away from it at the moment. And there's only so long that these players who are now, everyone talks about a young Spurs side all the time. Lots of their players are really, pushing 30, beyond 30. Alderweireld, Vertonghen, Christian Eriksen's now 27. These are players, Danny Rose as well. These are players that, have given everything to Spurs for the last 5-6 years. They haven't been good enough to win even a League Cup or an FA Cup. And understandably, they've got no attachment to Spurs. They're not a Harry Kane, they're not Harry Winks. They'll look at themselves, they'll look at their career. They've got a finite amount of time. They'll see that their contract's running down. They'll want to leave. I don't blame them for it. I think it's just an absolute nature of football. If you don't achieve enough of what you think you're capable of and don't get paid enough for it in the process, why wouldn't you look abroad or look elsewhere?
I saw a really interesting thing. The first time Jurgen Klopp played a Premier League match was against Tottenham Hotspur. And of Jurgen Klopp's squad on that day, only 2 players remain at Liverpool now.
Sure.
For Pochettino, in that same game, 7 of the starting 11 that started in that game started against Brighton in the 3-0 loss. Wow. That's how little turnover that squad's had. It's been nearly identical. And I think that's what's worked for Poch. That continuity throughout years of players buying into his system and his structure has worked to perfection, and he's been able to create a sort of cult of Pochettino at the club. The trouble is, those players no longer buy into that cult of Pochettino. Jan Vertonghen wants out, Alderweireld wants out, Trippier left, Danny Rose was nearly forced out of the club, Eriksen wants to leave. That's 4 or 5 key first team members, key people in the dressing room as well, and the whole defence. If they don't want to be there and don't buy into the cult of Pochettino anymore, they should have been moved on in the summer. Yeah. And that's no fault of Poch.
Supposedly in 2018, Alderweireld wanted to leave, Wanyama wanted to leave, Rose wanted to leave, and I think Vertonghen was thinking about it. And Pochettino apparently said to Levy, seriously, my philosophy relies on people being fully committed to it. Get rid of these players. We need to rebuild with younger, more enthusiastic players. And yes, I think they massively overachieved last year getting to the Champions League final. No way were they the second best team in the competition. They deserved to be there on their run. They got pretty lucky at times against Man City. They put in a great 45 minutes against Ajax. Fair enough. But for only two major players in Llorente and Trippier to leave over the last 5 years, it's just gone a bit stale. And their form, I think they've got 23 points out of their last 21 games, which if you extrapolate that to an entire season, that's something like 41 points, which is just above relegation. They haven't won an away game since January the 20th or something like that.
Yeah, they've won 6 of their last 21 games.
It's mental. So I don't think he should be sacked, but I wouldn't be surprised if he walked away, seriously.
Yeah, and an argument for sacking him as well is that if your choices are, right, okay, we keep the manager and we tear up the squad and completely rebuild it, then that is a real gamble that the manager will stay. Because if you say, right, okay, we're actually going to get rid of a bunch of talented players, like there clearly are talented players there, but it's a bit stale and we need to start again, you've got to know for certain that in 2 years or in a year or in 3 years, whatever it is, that manager doesn't say, I'm going to Real Madrid. And there's no guarantee of that with Pochettino, because if Real Madrid come calling in a year or 2 years, I think he'll absolutely go. Like, even to a Bayern or maybe even a PSG, like I think he will definitely at least strongly consider it. Whereas at least if you get rid of Pochettino, like we've said, there are good managers available in the market right now. Spurs do have a squad that I think would be quite tempting for a manager to go and work with.
Yeah, definitely.
It doesn't need a huge amount. Like you need to rebuild the back line. But if you're a coach like Allegri, you think, yeah, I can do that. And I don't know. I think that in a way, it's a safer gamble to say we get rid of the manager. Even though personally, I think, God, you've got like a world-class coach. You have to keep him. I don't know. It's a little bit of a.
The good thing from a Spurs perspective is the best they played this season was on Tuesday, and if they can keep that form going, albeit against the poor Red Star Belgrade side, if they keep that form going for the next 4 to 6 weeks, I don't think they're.
Trouble is they've got to go to Anfield.
They've got to go to Anfield unbeaten.
And it's also not.
And
also the question is it form? Like when they played against Brighton, that wasn't like this is a Spurs side in bad form. That was like this is a Spurs side which is not playing for their manager, and that's always like the kind of like special condition, right? You're like, oh, we talk about how good the manager is and we talk about how good the players are, but like if the players decide to give up on the manager, which we do see, like you can see it on the field, then you're like, it doesn't matter. You can have the best players in the world, but that team will not win. And that's what it looked like against Brighton.
Yeah, and scrapes a draw against Watford. Exactly. They definitely should have lost that game. They got pretty fortunate. I think the Dele Alli goal was perfectly legit, but for Tottenham, that's a clear penalty.
And it kind of felt like, didn't it? Maybe 2 seasons ago, they were one superstar away from really going to that next level. They were sort of a Van Dijk away from just taking their game to the next level. And he never arrived, and then there was no investment. And it's the same problem now, and that investment has come too late. That investment's come too late for the whole squad and for Pochettino. So I agree with you. I think he won't walk because I think he's too proud of his work at Tottenham Hotspur, things like the stadium and that. But he should seriously consider in the summer, I think.
Yeah.
And it's a really,
I think they should talk about it.
It will sound like we're hammering Daniel Levy, and I don't think I really am, because the way the infrastructure that he's built around Spurs now, they've got this state-of-the-art training ground that I think opened in 2012. They've got this one of the best stadiums in the world now. Like, he's set them up for a future challenging for the title. They just won't challenge for it with this squad.
Yeah, I agree. Let's briefly touch on Solskjaer because we have to. He'll be a heavily commented name, but we talk about Man United every week, don't we? So let's not go into it too in depth. Do you think Solskjaer lasts the season?
I think he probably will last the season, to be totally honest. I think they've probably set the parameters of be challenging for 4th, and I know they're not there at the moment, and people will say, oh, they're miles off, they're 2 points above relegation. But they've been missing their best striker in Martial, they've been missing their best player in Pogba. It's not... It's like City losing Aguero and De Bruyne, except for their squad is way worse. Like, it's so much harder for United to deal with these loss of top talent because their squad's not good enough. And it's not at the same level of Arsenal, even at Spurs either. I think the most damaging thing is they need to start securing these wins. I think only Villa have dropped more points from losing positions.
Yeah,
and if they'd won those games, they'd be in the top 4. But their defence, like there is reasons to be positive. Like, their defence looks very good. I think when they get Pogba back, a midfield of McTominay, Fred and Pogba is workable. The front line of Rashford, Martial and James is probably in the top 6 attacks. Like, it's not a case of tragedy. I just think a couple of additions in January, otherwise they won't get top 4.
That is it, right?
January is massive.
If you get 2 guys in January, you could genuinely 2 good players can turn that squad from like, oh, that's really thin to pretty good. And I don't know. The thing is, if Solskjaer's made it through this period, it's hard to see what gets him sacked. Because you're so deep down in the table, you've had such bad results. that it feels like if they were going to sack him, they'd have sacked him.
And Ed Woodward has now come out publicly. Like, I've seen Woodward starting to do interviews and make noise in the media about how he's starting this journey. And now, because he said that, he's shot himself in the foot. He can't fire Solskjaer from it. Because if he fires Solskjaer, it's a fifth failing under his career or fourth failing under his 6-year tenure at the club. And I think that'll probably be it for Ed Woodward. If Solskjaer
Who makes that decision, though? Do the Glazers fire Woodward? It feels like he's sort of omnipotent in that club.
But the Glazers also, there's rumours that the Glazers are looking to sell up.
With
Let's
societies,
not forget,
yeah.
obviously, one of the Glazers sold 12% of the club, I think, recently. And the Saudis are very interested in picking up the rest. It's a bit of a mess behind the scenes. And Woodward's kind of talking about, I was looking to hire this sporting director and trying to refine the club a little bit. So behind the scenes, it's a mess. And I think that's the reason they won't fire Ollie, is they like Ollie taking bullets for them behind the scenes.
He's just got so much money though. Like, I just think like the way to get through a period like this is to go out, find the best sporting director you can, and just slap down whatever it takes to get that person to come.
Like he said before, Ed Woodward, he's had like 2 or 3 of the world's best sporting directors apply for jobs at United, and he said no.
Why?
Because he's not in, like, that's not in his
structure.
focus. It's not how he wants to structure the club. And it's what's going to be his downfall in the long term, and probably why he himself will lose his job at some stage in Man United. But I agree. I think if Ollie has seen out this much of the season, this bad results, he's going to see out the entirety.
The weird thing though is like how much smoke there is about Allegri wanting the job. Like, because that does make it a little bit more difficult to justify keeping Solskjaer when you think there is genuinely a top quality manager out there who'd be up for having this job. Like what? I don't know. It's not like you sack Solskjaer and you're like, God, who can we get in to like steer? Does Mike Phelan like steer us through the rest of the season? Or
but it's like what Woodward has now again said publicly. We've tried and failed with the big name managers. So if he goes and signs Allegri, it's a nail in his own coffin. Yeah, which is a problem area for him. So I think Solskjaer, I think all 3 of them will last the season.
Do you think?
But just by the skin of their teeth. Whereas there's managers on the continent, I do not think he's going to last the season. Ernesto Valverde, I think, will be a miracle worker if he lasts the entire season. Barcelona fans hate him. I know they're on a decent run of results. I think they've got 5 wins in a row now, have they?
5 in a row, yeah.
But it's the manner in which they're winning games. Barcelona have to win games playing attractive football, battering opposition, and Valverde is too reliant on Lionel Messi to be able to provide those results.
Yeah. You wonder if Barca fans, there's a part of them that kind of hoped Messi would sit out a little bit longer, so the bad results would continue, and maybe Valverde would get sacked.
Yeah, 100%. And if he finishes where he is at the moment domestically, he's gone before the end of the season.
Well, they are now top, to be fair. Just about
there.
On the result on the weekend, I think they beat Eibar. Was it Eibar 3-0?
Yeah, and because Real lost to Mallorca.
Oh yeah, of course.
But that's the thing. It still just feels like. The thing is, if Messi's good and they just carry on staying top, it's really hard to justify sacking him. But I think that if they have a period where they slip down below Real Madrid and Atleti, even just for like a month or something, they've got to use that as an excuse to sack him. But they've clearly not wanted to sack him. That's the weird thing. Like, if I arrived at Barcelona and I was like, whatever it is, like the director of football, and I saw what was going on with Valverde, I'd be like, I cannot wait for us to have a bad run of games so I can justify sacking this guy. Because they wanted Quique Setien ages ago. He's available now. Admittedly, like didn't leave Betis like on a high, but they did want him, and it wasn't like Valverde was like a globally coveted manager when they brought him in.
True.
Marcelino is available. Like there are guys they can get. So unless their plan is, Jesus, let's just let Valverde see out the season, and then we are going to go and get somebody who we think is like going to play the Barca way, like Eric Ten Hag next summer. Like if that's their plan, then sure, that's fine. But with Barcelona, I just never really believe there is a plan. I think they just like muddle along, and then they're like, who's Spanish and can like come into the club?
Messi muddles them along, effectively.
Yeah, exactly.
Covering mistake after mistake.
They must be better than this. They must be better than this.
Yeah, well,
they're like Arsenal.
The squad's unreal.
They're
like Arsenal.
They're just frighteningly like inconsistent, really. Like we've seen them play really well on occasions. I thought they were pretty good at the weekend. But Griezmann, Suarez, and Neymar and Messi showed signs of linking up really well for the first time. They played really well against Real Betis at the start of the season, against Valencia at the start of the season, but they just muddled in some really poor results. They played appallingly against Dortmund away from home. They were lucky to draw that 0-0. They played pretty poorly last night against Slavia Prague, and you just can't really make sense of the team.
And even in those wins, they conceded 2 to Betis, they conceded 2 to Valencia, and you look at their defence and you're like, why? Like the defence is good.
Yeah. at least on paper. So I think he probably will lose his job at some stage, but I don't think he'll be the first of the big managers to go now they're top.
It's the third season of us saying he's got to lose his job soon. He's got to lose his job soon. I remember 2 seasons of just you and me slating him and Hamill defending him, and he's still there.
I don't know how he's still
How's
there.
it possible?
What about Zidane? Because I've also seen chat this week about Zidane potentially losing his job and Jose being linked heavily. Jose's name perennially linked with that Real Madrid job, and Zidane has been so poor in Europe at the start of this season that was like the final crux, I think, of Real Madrid's board, and fans were like, wow, look at his record in Europe. And it's like, you can cover up the domestic mess when it's that good in Europe, but when it's this poor in Europe, you've got to win the league to maintain your job.
They've given him £300 million reinvestment in the summer, and it seems like he's not been the one that's been behind those transfers at all.
Luka Jovic.
Jovic hasn't really played. Militão's been in and out the side. Mendy's been injured. Hazard's been pretty poor and overweight and a bit injured, not played particularly well.
Though that was Zidane's idea, right? It was always him wanting Hazard. And now we're hearing rumours that they're not going to go for a midfielder because they're really excited with how Valverde is playing. And you're like, okay, like, what does that mean? Like, what does that mean for the future of the club to have like a 34-year-old Modric, a 29-year-old Kroos, Casemiro, who's been carrying water for those 2 guys for the last 5 years, and Valverde, who looks like an okay midfielder, but like, you wouldn't buy him.
With Ceballos out on loan as well.
And Isco not playing for reasons passing understanding. Like, you genuinely look at that and you just think, what does this team do? And like, I think Zidane's record on transfers is really, really poor. Like, do you remember that summer where I think they could have gone and... I think there was a rumour they were going to go and get Kante. Yeah, because this was 2016 after he won the league with Leicester. There was a rumour they were going to go and get him, and then they were like, nah, we're not... I don't think they... Did they buy any players that summer?
I don't think so.
I think that was the summer where they did absolutely nothing. And everyone was like, brilliant. He just wanted to keep this squad together. But that just felt like a pose. And you're like, 34-year-old Modric cannot be the centrepiece of your team.
Yeah.
Ramos is 34 as well now, I think.
Yeah, that situation seems a bit of a problem. But Zidane, do you think he's got enough favour in the bank with the board and the fans that he just about sees the season out?
Annoyingly, with their result on Tuesday with that 1-0 win, I think if they hadn't gone through the groups, which actually looked quite possible if they hadn't have won that game, then I think he would have gone. Because they sacked Scolari last year, losing to Ajax, when they were doing pretty well in the league. They'd recovered after a dodgy spell under Lopetegui. Then he lost to Ajax. I think that was always a stopgap. Maybe they were just looking for any opportunity to bring back Zidane. But if he hadn't got through the Champions League group stages, then I think they would have probably got rid of Zidane. But I think he'll last probably. Because I think Florentino Perez has this obsession with Mourinho. It looks like he'd be the one to come in.
God.
I just can't really see it happening.
That's such a terrible appointment as well. It's not like somebody...
Not 2012.
It's not like they're going to sack Zidane and get in like a genuinely world-class manager. Like, to bring back Mourinho, I've no faith that Mourinho
even more bizarrely, with the Mourinho stuff, I saw midweek, I think it was the front cover of Bild, him being linked with Dortmund. And it was like, that seems like the most... he seems like the antithesis of Borussia Dortmund.
Like, but so is Favre, right? And so was Sturger, you know, who came in after Boss got sacked. Like, their last few managerial signings have been really bizarre at Dortmund, because you'd have thought they're the team who are just like, yeah, we will go and get Roger Schmidt, or we will go and get somebody who's just going to like attack like a maniac. We will make a big play for Nagelsmann.
Or we'll have got Rose in the summer.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, I don't know, Favre's okay, and to be honest, Dortmund are better than they've looked so far this season. But he is quite uninspiring. But to get rid of him to bring in Mourinho just feels like, let's swap one defensive coach who actually is playing well with our side for another defensive coach who probably won't play well with our side.
And then the other name is Niko Kovac, who, following, I think, was it the 2-2 with Augsburg at the weekend?
Yeah, which was bad.
Was under heavy fire. I saw Ralf Rangnick was heavily linked, wasn't he?
I watched the highlights of that game, and Bayern missed some like massive chances. Yeah. And it felt like that game could have been dead and buried before the late comeback.
Statistically, he does look pretty unlucky, though. Like, Lewandowski does drag him through, though. Equally, Lewandowski, I think, has got 21 goals this season already, and we're not even in November.
Yeah, he's 36 in the calendar year. I think that's the most in Europe.
Yeah, but the team is good, though. Like, when you dig into their numbers, you're like, yeah, this is the best team in Germany. That is what it looks like.
Yeah.
Like, and Gladbach are good, and Dortmund are good, and Leipzig are good. But if you had to put money on now, who's going to win the league, you put it on Bayern. Like, I will probably cash out my Leipzig bet.
Quite a tricky couple of months with them, because Luka Hernandez picked up an ankle injury. I think he's out for a couple of months. Nicolas Sulis done his ACL. So there's central defensive options are Pavard and Boateng, unless there's a fifth, I can't remember. So it's going to be an intriguing couple of months there as well.
They sold Hummel, so it will be Pavard and Boateng.
I can see kind of why Favre is under a bit of pressure as well, because
Yeah.
I think it went 3-2-2 draws, and then they just beat Borussia Mönchengladbach, got slightly lucky at the weekend. And then Inter Milan...
They lost at home, didn't they? Who did they lose at home to following Tottenham? 2-1, I think they lost.
Can't remember,
beat
but
Tottenham
they
17.
got completely controlled out the game by Inter Milan last night. Inter Milan were really impressive. I think they limited Dortmund to 2 shots on target. Torgan Hazard was pretty much anonymous. Julian Brandt started as a striker. They didn't have Packard, Cassell and Royce, but I think there's issues at Dortmund, definitely. But Mourinho's not the guy to fix them.
All right, okay. Let's all pick one name then that we think will be the first major manager.
Or you could go through
to
the
lose
list
the
and
role.
say, like, would we sack them now, yes or no?
All right, let's do that. Right, Unai Emery, would you sack him now?
I think he's the least
Jesus.
risky guy to fire.
Yes or no, would you sack him now?
Yes.
Yes.
I would as well. Pochettino?
No.
No.
No for me. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer?
Depending on the name, but probably no.
No.
No. Valverde?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Zidane?
No, I don't think so. I don't think they'll get the right player, manager in.
If I can get Allegri, yes.
Yes, I would sack him as well. And then over in Germany, Lucien Favre?
No.
No.
Yes. And then Kovac?
No.
No.
No, not for me. So there was our
Interesting.
selection of major managers that could lose their jobs. Why don't you let us know whether you agree with what we thought there and put the manager's name along with yes or no in the comments below. Moving on then to the Kings of the Month section. Here we select our Kings of the Month. Now the Kings of the Month are decided using the Sky Sports Power Rankings and the Kings of the Match stats from the Premier League app. You can click the link in the description below if you want to find out more. Doogie, your King of the Month. Who are you going to go for?
Quite difficult to do this actually, because I think a lot of big name players at bigger, notoriously bigger clubs haven't really been performing or been injured this month. So I'm going to give a shout out to Jack Grealish. Really coming to his own in the last couple of weeks in the Premier League. I thought he played exceptionally well against Brighton, although Villa have played against 10 men on about 3 occasions this season, so maybe it's slightly changed by that. But yeah, Villa, 2 wins on the bounce. I think it's against Norwich and then the Brighton win. I think Jack Grealish has been central. He's just a fun player to watch. He plays like a sort of guy in his back garden. Just a lot of freedom, runs from deep really well, threads it through, got a couple of goals as well, which put to bed, because I think he had gone about 30 games before without scoring before then. So yeah, shout out Jack Grealish.
Pat?
I think Jack Grealish has been good, but I also think he's benefiting from, playing an hour against 10 men in that Brighton game. Like, that was a benefit after that early red card from Moyes. So I actually think Fikayo Tomori has really impressed me this month. Like, he's pretty much solved a problem for Chelsea just kind of out of nowhere. And people were talking a lot about Mount before the start of the season. When I look at them talent-wise right now, I'm much more excited about Tomori than I am about Mount. Because it's a really difficult position for a young player to do well in. He's played in the back 3, he's played in the back 4. He was excellent again last night in the Champions League. Obviously kept that clean sheet, admittedly at home against Newcastle. It's not the most testing experience for a defender, but they've had a couple of clean sheets in their last few games. And I don't know, I just think Chelsea are a good team. I think they're now odds on to finish in 3rd. And Tomori is going to turn out to be one of the, well, he's not a bargain, but he's going to save them probably like 40 to 50 mil. So I don't know, I think Tomori is someone who they should be getting really excited about.
I'll go for a couple of players. I think Adama Traore has had a really good month. Wolves have kind of turned around that blip at the start of the season, and I think there are a lot of people that worry that it might be more than a blip. Raul Jimenez has also been central to that. But Adama Traore, adapting to that right wing-back role really successfully. I think it's the first time we've really seen consistency from him throughout his footballing career. And that end product, the ability to switch into that striking role against Manchester City, which saw him score 2. So I think him, and I think Danny Ings as well. Danny Ings deserves a shout. I think he scored in 4 consecutive games. That's the first time in his career he scored in 4 consecutive games.
He never did it for Burnley, wow.
I don't think he did. Correct me if I'm wrong. But either way, Southampton have been struggling. And Danny Ings has kind of been dragging them through. And I wasn't sure he had the ability to do it. I think we all thought at the start of the season, Southampton should have gone really heavy for a striker, maybe of Sebastian Haller or Joe Linton sort of quality. But Danny Ings has proved some of the doubters wrong. I'd still have my doubts as to whether he can do it across the course of a season, but 4 goals in 4 games for Danny Ings, I think he has to be right up there. But why don't you let us know your Premier League Kings of the Month in the comments below, and we'll respond to the best ones. Moving on to quick fire questions now then. The first one was sent in by Tamish Bahau, who is a regular contributor, by the way. If you want to become a regular Sunday Vibes contributor, send us your questions on Twitter on the below handles. Tamish says, who has been the most influential midfielder of the season so far? Pato.
Xhaka, because we're rubbish.
Xhaka?
Mostly because of him.
What, you're saying he's been influentially
He's been so
poor?
bad.
Yeah, like, I mean, well, his continued selection is like a real indication of what is bad about Emery, and he doesn't fit the way we're playing at all. But I mean, on the positive side, I mean, Ndidi has been sensational. Like at the same time, like Leicester gave up a bunch of chances against Burnley and probably should have lost at the weekend and somehow came out with a win. So it's hard to praise him after that performance. But generally speaking, he's been out of this world this season.
I would probably go De Bruyne's probably the obvious answer. Most people will say De Bruyne. Didn't have his best game against Palace at the weekend, but up till then he's been absolutely scintillating. And then on the continent, Nico Barella and Stefano Sensi been really good for Inter Milan, alongside Brozovic as well, who probably deserves a shout actually over those two. He's been absolutely phenomenal. Got an assist last night in the Champions League as well. So yeah, Inter Milan's midfield three have been awesome.
I'll go Fabinho. I think incredibly influential to that Liverpool midfield. I think they look way worse when he's not fit. And on the continent, maybe something like Idrissa Gueye, who I don't think we expected quite to take as big a step up as he has, given his age. Obviously, we knew he was a fantastic player at Everton, but did anybody see him being the best of that PSG midfield? I'm not sure we
Absolutely
did.
awesome.
Given
Jorginho too, right? Jorginho's
What
a turnaround.
Yeah, 100% Jorginho. Also, Angel Di Maria, does he count? Having a fantastic
If
start.
De Bruyne counts, I think Di Maria does.
Yeah, I think he's been involved in like 16 goals already this season, something like that, which is just
his assist for
incredible.
Mbappe's goal.
Yeah, his assists.
Just his all-round performance in that game.
Absolutely outrageous. So those are some of the names we'd put in there. The next one, Lada Ryan says, can Leicester finish in the top four, Dukes?
Yeah, I think they probably can, looking at the teams around them. I was slightly disappointed with their performance against Burnley at the weekend. That was the first time I've been like, meh. I think they've been slightly unfortunate to lose to the likes of Man United so far. They probably got a bit fortunate against Spurs as well. So there has been some things that have gone their way. But, you know, we say it every week, but it really does rely on the fitness of Vardy.
Yeah.
Like if he gets injured at any point, no. Even for a 2-month period, I think no, clearly they wouldn't. I don't think any of their backups could step in and fulfill anywhere near his standard. But they've been awesome. Like Sionchu, we've already talked about Ndidi. I think he's close to 9 tackles and interceptions a game. It's just absolutely frightening. Tielemans played really well. Maddison continues to progress. Sionchu's playing well at the back. And they've got 2 of the best fullbacks as a duo in the league, probably after Liverpool. So, yeah, I think they're in and around it, but it's crucial in that Vardy injury.
Pat?
I think they probably won't. Their statistics so far are not as good as their position in the table would suggest. I do think they're really good, but when you dig into their numbers, they start to look less impressive than you think they do when you watch them, I think. Because they are a fun team to watch. There are so many players we like there, but it's possible, but I think it's unlikely.
Yeah, I think they certainly can, but I totally agree with Dukes. I think it all comes down to one injury to Jamie Vardy or Wilfred Ndidi. I think there's as many problems if Wilfred Ndidi picks up a major
Maybe
injury,
even more, actually.
as Jamie Vardy, in terms of you've then got to alter your whole midfield system. You've got to really rely on Hamza Chowdhury to increase his output,
Maybe
and
Dennis
that
Pratt
defence
or something.
suddenly looks a whole lot more exposed. So I think Wilfred Ndidi or Jamie Vardy, if they can keep them fit for the entire season, then they stand an incredible chance. Let's finish up then with a personal question this week. This was sent in by Jumsa, who says, what's your unpopular food opinion? I know you've got one, Pato, straight off the back.
Well, I think I have a lot, but I think Nando's peri salted chips are terrible.
They are clinically overrated. I've started to go mash in Nando's.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
A James Wayne move.
Not bad. It's not bad.
See, the peri salt might go better in the mash, you know, but like what it actually just tastes of is too much salt. And I like loads of salt on things, but like I always think, oh, this is going to be great, and I order them, and then it's just like dry powder on top of chips, which is not delicious. I don't get it.
Yeah, Dukes?
Anything from the sea tastes crap. Just anything.
Anything from the sea
What?
tastes crap.
Fish,
What are you talking
come
about?
on, bro.
Fish,
You don't like
seafood,
any fish?
Don't like any type of fish.
You've
The only thing I
lost
like
your
from the
head.
sea is calamari, which is good.
That's such
and
an
I quite
odd
like
thing
octopus as well. But,
Those are odd things to pick.
but I don't like any
Not
of
even
the-
like some fried white fish
Oh,
in
no.
batter.
No.
Don't like
I like the batter. I'll have the batter. But
Oh, you've gone mental.
all fish. It's weird. I'm trying to get more into it, but ever since I was, supposedly when I was a baby, it was my favourite food, but I actually think I was just uncomplaining back then, and Mum just force-fed it to me, and now I hate it. Can't have it.
All right, fair. Well, I really like seafood, but sushi.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of sushi. I don't like salmon.
Not having sushi. I just can't. Every time I eat sushi, I always go to it and I'm thinking, you know what, I am going to try and expand my horizons. I eat a bit and I'm just like, oh, really? Like, just cook it.
The fish specifically.
I don't know,
like,
the
as in
whole
if you have like an
thing,
avocado.
like
Right?
The avocado, I tried that the other day, it was
rice,
fine.
I'm just
Seaweed's
kind of
not
like,
great.
in my head, I'm just like, it would be better cooked though, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
agree.
It
I
just
agree.
would be better
Or
if it was
heated.
cooked.
I've
Yeah,
had the
or
rice and
heated.
avocado one, and it's so much better if it was hot.
I know.
Well, cold stuff, you literally taste it less. Like, this is like a proven scientific
Really?
fact, right? That when something's really cold, it reduces the amount of flavour. Like, so as a result, you know this when you let like chocolate melt on your tongue, you taste so much more in it. So like when they really chill fish like that and give it to you, you're like, what you're trying to do is reduce the flavour of this fish. So we all know it.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
It's all over the place. Either way, that's the end of Sunday Vibes for another week. If you did enjoy it, make sure you go and watch previous Sunday Vibes or check out Continental Club over on EFD, which are very similar sort of chat, but more European based. Gents, is there anything you want to push to? Podcast.
Yeah, there will be an episode of The Game's Gone Mad live by the time you see this show. We will actually be folding it into Sunday Vibes Extra Time. So look out in November when Sunday Vibes Extra Time will go from fortnightly to every week.
Oh, love that.
Nice. Go check out some of our listicles. We've done some good ones recently. Pep Guardiola's worst signings. There was players that regret staying at their club last Saturday, so go check out some of those as well.
Yes, and as I said at the start, this episode has been brought to you by our friends at Budweiser, the official beer partner of the Premier League. Make sure you check out that latest monthly episode of the Kings of the Premier League, hosted by Smithy on Sky Sports. That'll be live on November the 1st. Thanks very much for watching. See you later.